I want to welcome everybody to this important announcement. I'm Andy Barr. I represent Kentucky's 6th Congressional District, and I am co-chairman of the Congressional Horse Caucus. I'm pleased to be joined by my friend and co-chair of the caucus, Paul Tonko, to announce introduction of H.R. 3084, the Thoroughbred Horseracing Integrity Act of 2015. Hailing from what we call the horse capital of the world, as you can imagine, I love horses and I love horse racing and I love the horse industry. It's actually part of my family history, as it is for many people who live in central Kentucky. Both the industry and horse racing itself are vitally important to the history and culture of central Kentucky. Lexington is surrounded by over 400 horse farms. 10 of the 12 Triple Crown winners were foaled in the 6th District, including this year's American Pharaoh. American Pharaoh will retire for breeding in Woodford County, which is in my district. And 5 Triple Crown winners are buried in the 6th District, including Gallant Fox, Count Fleet, Citation, Secretariat, and Seattle Slew. In addition, Man of War, the great Man of War, is buried in the 6th District of Kentucky. And Lexington's historic Keeneland Racecourse, which is, of course, home of the Grade 1 Toyota Bluegrass Stakes every year, is also hosting this year the 2015 Breeders' Cup World Championships, and we're excited about that. This tradition is not just historical. The horse industry remains vitally important to our local and national economy. Kentucky's horse economy is estimated at about $4 billion in economic impact annually. Nationally, the horse industry contributes $25 billion to the American economy and generates nearly 380,000 jobs. So this is a national industry defined by interstate commerce. Approximately 50% of the starts by thoroughbred horses in 2015 were made by horses that competed in more than one state. There are also challenges which must be addressed in order to ensure the vitality and the health of the future success of this industry. One of these challenges is the labyrinth of different and often conflicting rules governing medication. Under existing law, the American thoroughbred horse racing industry labors under a diverse patchwork of conflicting and inconsistent rules governing these medication policies and practices across 38 different racing jurisdictions. This lack of uniformity in the rules of horse racing has impaired interstate commerce, and it has undermined public confidence in the sport. Since I took office in 2013, I have been listening carefully to my constituents about these challenges facing this industry. Their input has motivated my work and the call to reform this industry, and it has helped to improve the bill that we introduce here today. My ongoing pledge to the people of Kentucky and my constituents that I represent and that I pay close and special attention to the signature industries of Kentucky, which are not only important to our history and culture, but also to jobs in the economy. The Thoroughbred Horseracing Integrity Act, which I introduced today with my co-chair of the Congressional Horse Caucus, Paul Tonko, is a national solution for a national problem. The legislation establishes an independent, non-governmental, anti-doping authority charged with the responsibility of implementing a national uniform medication program with input from the thoroughbred industry. By passing this bill and implementing these bipartisan reforms aimed at uniformity, safety, and integrity, we can lay the foundation for the future growth, popularity, and international competitiveness of the American thoroughbred industry. So thank you to Congressman Tonko and your staff for helping to bring about this important effort. I want to thank my staff, in particular Eric Bunning, who has played such an important role in helping us through the process. I also want to thank the broad coalition of individuals and groups who have worked so hard to get us where we are here today. A few of them are here, including Chauncey Morris and Don Robinson and Stephen Lister with the Kentucky Thoroughbred Association and the Kentucky Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association, Matt Uliano with the Jockey Club, and Barry Irwin representing the Water Hay Oats Alliance. And a special thank you to Arthur and Stacy Hancock for their leadership in the Water Hay Oats Alliance as well. I also want to recognize the endorsement of the Breeders' Cup in the coalition. I know that all of us here today are here because we refuse to accept the notion that horse racing faces a future of inevitable decline. Our vision for the thoroughbred industry and for this sport we love is that a new golden era of horse racing is not only possible, but that it is readily achievable with reform that tears down the silos that divide the industry and that unites the sport under a national uniform set of medication rules and procedures. We envision the most prosperous, popular, and competitive thoroughbred industry on the planet, driven by uniformity, integrity, and safety. Thank you all for your input on this important bill. And now I'd like to turn it over to Congressman Tonko before we open up for whatever questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's great to join with my colleague Andy Barr as we announce this legislation today. While the nation's sporting spotlight focused on American Pharoah this May and June, the thoroughbred industry is a year-round enterprise responsible for $25 billion in annual economic development and the support of nearly 400,000 quality jobs across this nation. A single national approach to medication and drug testing with strong independent oversight and enforcement is long overdue and will help ensure the industry's long-term viability, including enhancing the care and welfare of the horses. The racing industry has taken significant steps toward medication reform in the past several years, and this legislation will build on that progress. It will build on it by providing a uniform national solution that sets the highest standards of independence, of fairness, and of integrity, ensuring the future health of the sport and protecting thousands of jobs across the country. Now, no mistaking, the focal point, the epicenter of this industry is the athlete. So the beautiful, magical, strong animals called equine athletes are the focus of this legislation. They deserve and they require our respect. And so this legislation responds in a way that offers a truly independent outcome. The independence here is what will make this work and function to full measure. I would like to thank the stakeholders who make up the coalition of horse racing integrity that have joined us today and many others. They include Barry Irwin of the Water Hay Oats Alliance, Matt Ulano of the Jockey Club, and Chauncey Morris, Dan Robinson, and Steve Leister of the Kentucky Thoroughbred Association. Those, as Andy mentioned, from the Breeders' Cup also. All of the efforts here to have voices speaking to the soundness of this legislation have been important in this process. I would also like to thank Andy Barr, Congressman Barr, and his staff who worked so hard in a bipartisan fashion to get the details right in this legislation. We found this journey to be a productive one. And I want to thank Jeff Morgan from my crew, who has been very devoted to this effort and has taken all sorts of calls and had information along the way to make it all work. I look forward to working with Andy Barr as co-chairs of this Congressional Horse Caucus. We take this role seriously, and we want to shepherd this legislation through energy commerce, on which I'm assigned, and take it to the House floor to be victorious, to bring this to the winner's circle, so to speak. So we're determined. We're going to make this work, and again, it speaks forcefully to the fairness that is required in this focus on our equine athletes, and certainly the patchwork of levels of rules and regs that exist out there do not provide the sort of certainty and predictability in a professional manner. So in that manner, we want to move forward and speak strongly in defense of this legislation. So with that, I thank everyone that has helped us in bringing this moment to a success, and now onward with the extra work that it will require to move it through the House and eventually get it signed into law.
Thank you. Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So, any questions? Yes.
Yes, hi, I'm Lydia Wheeler with The Hill. Can you tell me how this legislation differs from other legislation that has been introduced in past years on this topic?
Well, I think basically you have a good collaborative with USADA forming this 11-member panel. And so you get various perspectives coming together with USADA that has worked as a great organization to speak to clean athlete. You know, the racing fans, sports fans in general, are very discerning. They want to see clean athletes. They want wholesomeness in the sports industry. This speaks to that effort. So the cross-section of perspective, working with a USADA organization that has had sound success, allows for that order of independence and for the cross-perspective, that the multi-perspective that is important to making certain that every angle will be heard from as they promulgate the standards, the penalties, the guidelines that will accompany this, so that it's a good partnership with the industry while establishing independence.
I would just echo what my colleague has said. The United States Anti-Doping Authority is an important part of this legislation, but it's not the only part of it, and they provide the integrity and the independence, but the legislation, the non-governmental independent authority that is established under this legislation will be known as the Thoroughbred Horseracing Anti-Doping Authority. And as Paul mentioned, this strikes a balance between the critical importance of independence to ensure public confidence in the process, the rulemaking process, and the enforcement and the uniform application of these national standards. But also we recognize that the input of the thoroughbred industry and all of the diverse participants and constituencies within the thoroughbred industry is an important part in the development of this. And so we strike the balance between rigorous independence on the one hand and also having the proper representation by the constituency. And this is truly a self-regulatory entity, and we think that sets this apart and gives this legislation a better chance than good faith previous efforts. And I think the coalition that you see behind us is a representation of the fact that this effort is different from prior efforts that have been unsuccessful. We have a lot more momentum because we've been very deliberate and thoughtful about building a coalition on a consensus-driven process.
I also think that, you know, Andy and I both cited the economic development impact of this industry and the economic multipliers that are driven into the regional aspects. It's important for us to enhance that. You know, it's all about job creation, job protection these days on the Hill, and we want to make certain that we're growing that economic recovery factor, which is a strong one associated with this industry. And when you do something like this, I think you're building a stronger responsiveness from the general public, from the fans, and again, the equine athlete deserves and requires this order of respect.
Yes, ma'am.
Juliet Leclerc with the New York Times. How do you think American Pharoah's winning the Triple Crown help this bill? That hasn't happened in a number of years.
Well, I had the joy of watching with Sean Smiley, my friend. We enjoyed watching the Belmont winner cross that finish line first. And I can tell you the exuberance at that historic sporting event can only heighten the interest in this industry. The enthusiasm for the sport is enhanced by his breaking that long dry spell of nearly 4 decades, and that can only bring more focus to this industry. But now we're responding in a very empowering way so that it will be a good complement to the work we're doing.
And I would just add that I wasn't at Belmont on that great Saturday, but I was in Louisville on the first Saturday in May at Churchill Downs, and the exuberance always was there. We always have a hope every year that we're going to have a Triple Crown. This year, after 37 years, we had it. That develops momentum. It enhances the popularity of the sport, and it gives us an opportunity to take this industry even to higher heights and to the next level. And what I would say about the New York love for racing and the Kentucky love for racing is it underscores the fact that this is an interstate and national sport, and the national nature of the industry deserves a national set of rules.
That note, unless anyone else has any questions, we'll wrap it up.
Any other questions?
Say, put your money on robot in the third.
If not, thank you all very much for being here.